Hey, what is going on, guys? This video today is basically going to be answering one of the most common questions I get in the comments section of my channel, and that is, hey bro, I have a 3.2 KD, I have 100 lifetime wins, I win about 15% of my games, am I a good player? And the truth is, I'd love to take time out of my day to answer, but one, I don't have the time, and two, those things are really arbitrary. There are a lot of stats in Fortnite that can be misleading and manipulated with certain different play styles, so the point of this video today is basically going to be telling you guys which stats truly do indicate your skill in Fortnite, and which ones don't because they're either not the best measure of skill, or they can be easily manipulated. Along with that, I'll give you guys what I believe to be somewhat of a rubric to grade yourself or anyone else you want to grade on how good of a Fortnite player you truly are. So let's get right into it. Now, are stats everything in Fortnite? Absolutely not. But when it comes to a personal measuring stick that's easily accessible through either Fortnite itself or Fortnite Tracker or a bunch of other stat-based websites, there's really no better way to judge yourself or any other player than by looking at the statistics, because for the most part, they tell a very large story about how good someone is at the game. So, obviously watching someone play over a long period of time is better, but you can't do that if you're not a YouTuber or streamer, so stats are going to be your best bet. So I want to start this video off by talking about the big three of Fortnite statistics: kill-death ratio, win percentage and total number of wins, and finally, kills per match. Now, we're going to start off with kill-death ratio, which in all other shooter video games is easily the best measure of how skilled someone is at the game. Unfortunately for Fortnite, that isn't really the case, and we're going to get into why that is right now. So in Call of Duty, Halo, Overwatch, Gears of War, games where kill-death ratio is frequently referenced as the best way to judge a player, it's because there are so many gunfights in a given Call of Duty, Halo, Overwatch game that it really does paint a good picture of how good someone is, because they're getting into so many different engagements in so many different scenarios. Like in a domination or headquarters or demolition game in Call of Duty, you're probably going to get into a solid 50, 60, maybe even 70 to 100 engagements in a given game. Now in Fortnite, kill-death ratio has one major flaw that you don't see in really any other shooter game that I can recall. And that is the fact that when you win a solo game every single time in Fortnite, and when you win games in duos and squads most of the time, you are not registering a death. And this may not seem like a really big deal, but I'm going to paint a picture for you guys that I think does a good job of illustrating how easily kill-death ratio can be manipulated in Fortnite. So let's take two different guys. Our first player is a really good Fortnite player. He plays 5 solo games and gets 10 kills in all 5 games, but unfortunately doesn't win any of them. Sometimes he's the last player alive before the win. Sometimes he's top 3, sometimes top 5, sometimes he dies towards the middle. But in his 5 games, he gets 50 kills, and unfortunately because he doesn't win any of the games, he ends up with a total of 5 deaths. Now let's take a look at a second player. This guy plays for the win. He plays incredibly passive. He doesn't push any gunfights that he doesn't have to, and most of the time he's just hiding in a 1-by-1 at the edge of a circle. In his first 4 games, he gets all 2-kill wins, and in his 5th game, he gets a 3-kill loss. So to round up the totals here, our first player got 50 kills in 5 games, and because he didn't win any of them, he registered 5 deaths. So overall, if you can do like 3rd grade math, that's a 10 KD. Anyone consistently getting 10 kill games is a really good player, and his KD in this case obviously reflects this, and this is an example where the KD stat works really well because he's registering a normal amount of deaths. But getting into our second player, As I mentioned, 4 2-kill wins and 1 3-kill loss. That means a total of 11 kills in the 5 games compared to the 50 kills of our first player. But because he won 4 of the games and only lost 1, he's only going to record 1 death with those 11 kills. So at the end of the day, if you're a firm believer in the KD stat in Fortnite, if you believe it's a better indicator than any other stat in the game, then you have to agree with the point that the second player in this example who got 11 kills in 5 games is worse than the first player in this example who got 50 kills in 5 games. And I know I'm probably going to get some comments by some guys that just want to be different, that say, oh, you know, well, he got the wins. I mean, he did what he wanted to do. He deserves the higher KD. But I think anyone that's played Fortnite for any amount of time and has even half a brain can tell you that the guy who got 50 kills in 5 games is considerably better than the guy who got 11 kills in the same amount of games. So now, even though we already touched on it in the KD section, we're going to move on to win percentage and number of wins and how good of an indicator that is towards how good someone is at Fortnite. Now, I'm going to be honest with you guys, out of the 3 stats that I named, KD, wins, and kills per match, wins and win percentage in general is easily the worst indicator. Not because it doesn't show skill, but because wins are so arbitrary and the amount of skill that they show differs from player to player. I think a great comparison for wins in Fortnite is rings in basketball, or really in any sport, number of championships you have. If you are the leading scorer and the best player on a championship team in the NBA, that ring is going to be so important for your legacy, and it's going to show maybe more than any other award in basketball how dominant and legendary of a player you are. But on the flip side, if you're the 12th man on an NBA team that wins a championship, or the 13th leading scorer, or a guy that plays 2 minutes a game, you're going to get the same ring as that player that led the team in scoring and carried you guys to a ring, but it does not matter as much for your legacy at the end of the day as it does for the guy that carried everyone to that championship. It's the same way for wins in Fortnite. If you are leading and dragging and carrying your teammates to wins on a game-to-game basis, you know, you're playing squads or duos and you're dropping 12 kills in a win, 15 kills in a win, and your teammates dropping, you know, 1 kill, 3 kills, 4 kills, those wins really do say a lot about how good of a Fortnite player you are. But just like in the ring example, if you're the one being carried, if you're playing with 3 incredible players who are getting, you know, 8 kills, 13 kills, 11 kills, well, you're dropping, you know, an average of 1 or 2 kills a game, you're going to get that same win added to your stats. That's also going to boost your win percentage, but you did not do enough to deserve that, and it should, honestly, at the end of the day, not even impact your stats. And that's why wins are so arbitrary. And that's why when people tell me, oh, you know, I got 200 wins, 300 wins, does that make me a good player? I really can't tell. You need to judge it yourself. So out of all the measures, wins and win percentage, totally arbitrary. You need to be able to take an objective step back and really determine how much those wins matter and if they indicate if you're a good Fortnite player or not. Moving on to kills per match, which is hands down the best measure of skill in Fortnite. And not enough people pay attention to this stat. I don't think you can even see it in the main Fortnite stat screen. You need to go to a website like Fortnite Tracker to find it. It is easily the best stat to determine skill. And here's why. Kill-death ratio, like I said, could be manipulated by having a high win percentage. Wins and win percentage can also be manipulated by playing with other really good players or playing super passive in a solo or duos game. Kills per match cannot be manipulated at all in Fortnite. And at first thought, you guys may say, oh, what do you mean? Just play really aggressive. That'll get you a higher kills per match. But the truth is, if you're an average or only a pretty good player, and you rush every fight, play super aggressive, push 1v3s, 1v4s when you're not that great, yeah, you'll probably start seeing yourself getting higher high kill games. You know, if your average high kill game for a session is like 6 or 7, and you start trying to quote unquote boost your kills per match, those 6 or 7s may turn into 8, 9s, or 10s. But at the end of the day, those 3 or 4 kill games, which usually buoy your kills per match as your low point, those 3 and 4s are going to start turning into 1s and 2s and 0s. So even though your highs are going to be higher when you're playing super aggressive and starting to push less advantageous fights, your lows are going to be lower, because if you're not a great player and you're pushing 1v2s, 1v3s, 1v4s when you're less than absolutely totally looted and shielded out, you're going to start winning them every once in a while, but you're more so going to lose them, which at the end of the day is going to hurt your kills per match. So kills per match is that perfect balance of rewarding people that are aggressive enough to get high kill games, while also punishing people that aren't good enough to consistently win 1v3s, 1v4s, or just in general disadvantageous situations in Fortnite. So this is the part of the video where I basically provide you guys with your own personal grading rubrics that will use your kills per match to determine how good of a Fortnite player you are in general. Now, mainly this is going to deal with duos and squads. It doesn't really work with solos because it's a lot harder to get high kills per match in solos. So let's just get right into it. Alright, so 0 to 1 kills per match is what I would refer to as a bad player. You know, I don't want to be mean, but I also don't want to sugarcoat it. If you're not getting at least like 1 kill per match, you're probably a pretty bad player. You know, it's not the end of the world if you're at like 0.95, you can improve. But yeah, not going to lie to you guys, if you fall in that range, you definitely have some work to do. 1 to 2 kills per match, I would consider an average player. 2 to 3 kills per match, I would consider a pretty good player. 3 to 4 kills per match, I would consider a good player. 4 to 5 kills per match, I would consider a great player. 5 to 6 kills per match, I would consider an elite player. And anything over 6 kills per match, I would consider a top player. Just to give you guys an example, I currently float between number 2 and number 1 in the world for duos kills per match at around 7.5 per game. So anything over 6 I would consider top. Anything over 7, you're literally probably like top 50 or 100 in the world depending on what console you play on. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you can use some of the things I said in here to truly determine whether or not you are a good Fortnite player. So leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, do whatever the heck you want, and I will catch you guys next time.